Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be showing you how to fly the R66 turbine over here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Now this is a neat helicopter, and if you're coming from our good friends over at the lovely, especially the H125, this thing is going to be a twitchy mess for you, which I actually like, because when I think of helicopters I think of sensitivity. So the first thing we're going to do is get this thing all ready to go. And the first thing we have to do is run up here and rip the sock off. Now, when you rip the sock off, keep in mind that the other sock comes off with it because you can't actually reach and grab that one. The other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come around to the back and we're going to pop open the little exhaust for our turbine, kind of get out of the way. Now, if we were going hard here, we could actually open this hatch real quick and confirm that the oil is in good shape. We could even open up the back. And one of the things I love here is just how stupid tiny the actual turbine in this thing is. It's a little thing, and I just think that's so cool. So go ahead and close that up. It's good to go. So let's go ahead and climb on in and take a look at our office here. Pretty simple. For those of you familiar with the R22, you've pretty much seen all this before. The big difference here is we have nice new leather seats. All this one looks like it's been worn down a little bit. And I love the fact the floor has got like the foot mark where you put your feet and everything like that. That's really, really good stuff. And I appreciate little details like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little checklist here and make it nice and simple. I'll go back. I'll go to our back again, hit our little checklist here, and we'll go through it together and make sure everything's good to go. So blade socks are looking pretty groovy. We see our landing skid looks fine. Baggage, all these things look great. Let's go head over to before starting engine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to confirm the collective can move all of the way. You want to check in your controls that that's set correctly. We're going to make sure our flight controls are free and clear. I can't stand the controller on a real world Robinson. This thing is so irritating. And trust me, the first time you try it, you'll be like, are you kidding me? So that's good to go. Our rotor brake should be engaged. There's a little switch behind us. It's this guy right here. You just go and just pull it out. And that will set the rotor brake there and make it nice and easy. Stay. And again, you have to press and hold to keep that out. You can see everything's all set. Anti-ice is off. That sits down here in case you're looking for the switch for that. Landing light should be off, which it is. Avionics master switch. We can confirm that that's off, which it is. Altimeter should be set. It is a very cold day in New England, so we'll deal with that. I'm surprised there's no snow on the ground, to be honest. Altimeter set. Hydraulic switch. This is a funky switch, and don't lose it because it does make it easier to fly the helicopter. All right, that's good to go. Starting engine. Very, very, very simple start here, by the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the battery switch. Go ahead and turn that sucker on. You can see we've got some fuel, not a lot, but it's enough. Strobe light's going to go ahead and pop on next. You can click that sucker right there. We're going to enable the igniter. Watch this. That's it. Fuel shutoff valve is closed. You can see that sitting here. Quite confusingly, by the way. There's another one back here, and I find it interesting that they don't do both. That's a weird oversight, but whatever. So fuel shutoff valve should be closed. I'll my mouse over it, and it is closed. Throttle should be closed. That's going to be this guy right here. Remember, a gas turbine. You can see that's off. Starter on. This is a little goofy, and if you bind a button to it, it's a little bit simpler, but if you need the starter button, just go like that. That's it. That's all you had to do to start. So what we're watching here for is we're going to go ahead and pop in the fuel shutoff valve, and everything's going to start moving pretty quick. Kind of mellow, not going to lie. And that's it. You can hear it kind of slowly booting up here. RPM's at the minimum. Remember, a gas turbine, so it's got a slightly slower response. Hear that? That's it. It's moving. Delightful. And what you're really waiting for here is everything to settle, and it will definitely settle for you if you give it a few moments. While I'm waiting, I'm actually going to get my panel lights cranked up here, see a little bit better. It is a very, very dark and stormy day. Nice. Going to get a warning about generator, which checks. EGT is good. N1 has come up. That's correct. Oil pressure is in the green. Generator is going to get turned on. Click. And that's going to get us a little bit of juice. Avionics is going to come on next. Press the little avionics switch. You're going to get a little thing here. It tells us the air temperature. Like I said, it's pretty cold today for everybody else in the world. That's how cold it is. It's enough. It is a very chill day to say. Good time to test our lights. Everything looks good there. I like that. Let's see. Avionics master switch is all set. Lift collective slightly. We should get an error. Hey, it works. Delightful. So we got that. Collective should go back down. We're going to clear the annunciator panel, which we have done. Delightful. So the interesting thing here is when they do take off, they do all these lovely things, but what they don't mention is they don't mention how to get this thing up to an RPM we can actually use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come floating down here, and you can see here I've got my little throttle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently give it a kick. And you can hear everything starting to spin up very smoothly. There we go. Nice. give it a couple more clicks. We're just waiting for the generator, or I should say the governor, to catch. RPM's coming up, and once it gets out of the big nasty yellow zone, we'll be ready to fly. There it is. I can feel the governor grabbing it, and you can see, just like that, the governor does a delightful job. So at this time, of course, the igniter is enabled. In the event that we have any problems, we can shut it off. Watch this. Nothing bad will happen if you click that to the off position on account of the fact that, again, once it's going, it's going. We have basically a self-sustaining operation here, which makes it much, much simpler for us. All right, let's float down here and check out our last set of switches. It's, like I said, kind of nasty outside, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that sucker on. You will notice that it says OK, and you press the Enter key. It says OK, OK. You press OK, and now our GPS is going to start going through the motions of getting everything booted up. And like I said, we have no GPS position because we're still kind of kicking in here. It's a good time to let the turbine helicopter warm up. So I love the fact this thing says no step. Who would not want to put their foot up on that thing? It's just kind of one of those things. I also find it interesting we can't put the cup over the fuel shutoff, so we can't accidentally grab it. I just find that kind of like a, not an oversight, but kind of a curiosity. All right, let's get this thing going. So as usual, we want to make sure this thing kind of finds sort of the sweet spots of this helicopter. We are very heavy. We're carrying a passenger. I swear she follows me around everywhere. So one of the things we're going to want to do here is we're going to go ahead and figure out kind of what our hover position is at low altitude. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and gently start applying a little bit of collective. All you're looking for is that point when everything starts to move on you. There it goes. You'll notice our helicopter twists to the right. You also notice we have a tendency to kind of move over to the right. So what I'm going to do is what they call the J. If you take a look at my feet here, I'm going to go ahead and pull the cyclic towards me and go left. I guess that's a backwards L. They call it a J. And then we're going to give it some left foot. And then as we slowly start bringing the power in, you're just trying to feel what the helicopter wants to do. And again, depending on how the people model it, and depends on the wind, it's going to have a big impact on what's going to happen here. Wow, this thing wants to fly today. We definitely have some pretty serious winds. So unfortunately, that makes this thing a little bit more twitchy than usual, but that's okay. Looks good. Just let it settle. Let it figure out what it wants to do. And we're just going to climb vertically here, which is extremely dangerous for a helicopter. You basically, again, can eat your own turbulence, which you want to be very mindful of here. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Pretty stable. Like I said, we got a little bit of wind, but nothing too bad. And again, we just want to be careful with it. All right, delightful. Let's go ahead and kick us over here, and we're going to get on our way. We're not taking advantage of any translational lift here, so we need to use everything our engine can give us to get this thing rolling. Keep in mind, as you apply collective, you're going to need progressively more left foot. You'll find this helicopter very touchy the first few times you fly it. Very typical of a Robinson helicopter. If you're wondering why my controls are staying in one place, but the helicopter's going everywhere, as I mentioned, we have nice cold winter winds today. And I selected that intentionally just to kind of show you what it's like when it's at this performance. So as you're cruising, it's a relatively straightforward to keep this thing in the direction that you want to do. Again, just use very, very, very gentle corrections. And remember, you're going to have to use your feet to basically kind of keep everything coordinated. Speaking of which, if you look over here on the left, do you see that little kind of string that's kind of dangling? Watch what happens if I push my left foot forward. Watch what happens if I push my right foot forward. Aha! That little string there is going to tell you if you're flying coordinated. Now, right now, you can see as I feed in on the right foot, that string goes and basically zips over there. Ah, there we go. Now we're nice and coordinated. We can't see the string. Delightful. And I love the fact you can actually fly it so backwards that the thing will actually spin around. We're over Keene, New Hampshire right now and enjoying a nice, gentle kind of cruise here. We're about 65 knots, you can kind of see down here. And what we're going to do is collect a little bit of altitude here. Unfortunately, it's kind of a bad day, so we've got to kind of be mindful of that. So I'm going to do is I'm going to gently increase collective. You can hear the engine getting a little bit whinier. And the thing's basically going to go up on its own. Now, when it comes to limitations on this here, you can see our yellow zone starts at about 80. And you can also see down here our main gas temperature as well as our N1 continues to climb as we bring in more collective. Again, the governor is doing a really, really nice job of running the country. Now, I don't know, he's basically kind of keeping things pretty smooth for us, which is pretty sweet. So we got about 80% there. That's looking pretty good. And we're just going to slowly start making our way over towards the airport here. And again, we'll do some quick little operations when you get there. One of the things you have to remember with these helicopters is you have very, very limited range. You can stay in the air for about 2 hours at this kind of power. And you can see we started with a little more than half a tank, and you can see how fast this thing goes down. So one of the things you have to keep in mind if you're doing career missions and things like that is just making your life as simple as possible by making sure you have enough fuel and things like that, because you will go through it very, very quickly. So what we have now is we're going to get ourselves all lined up and ready to put this thing on the ground. And we'll do a couple quick little maneuvers just to kind of experiment there and get used to some of these little operations. Then we have our Keene Airport here. And the first thing I'm going to do is try to figure out where the wind's coming from. And I can kind of see by looking over there that it's kind of facing us right now, which is probably explains why we had so much turbulence on takeoff there. Kind of okay. It's also a fairly stiff wind. I can see that the entire sock is visible, which puts us at least 20 to 25 knot winds here, which, oh, yeah, we've got gusting winds. You can see that very clearly from the sock. The nice thing here is that we're in a pretty good spot to do some maneuvers here, and we'll definitely take advantage of it. So whenever we're doing any traffic pattern in a helicopter, you've always got to make sure your altitude is below, or not below, I should say it's about 500 feet. And the reason they do this is to stay out of the way of the fixed-wing aircraft. Another big difference, too, is the fact most traffic patterns are going to be flown to the right. Again, I sit on the right side of the helicopter. It makes it easier to see. So as I'm chilling down here, I'm actually very safe from airplanes, which is kind of a neat thing. When you turn helicopters, if you listen, did you hear it? That sound is blade slap. That is the lovely sound of reminding us that our rotors are not hitting the air very evenly. When these kind of things occur, it just means we're loading the rotor. It acts as a nice little kind of RO warning, if you prefer, to kind of give you a heads up that things are getting a little different for us. There we go. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and do a quick stop maneuver. We're going to take, again, right traffic, a nice low approach. Again, on helicopters, never go ahead and push the nose over. It even reminds you not to do it. Otherwise, we tend to take our tail off. Just gently turn. Again, your collective is going to be your up and down. Your pitch is going to be your speed. There's the blade slap. Loading that thing up gently. Getting a feel for what it's going to do here. Try to keep in coordination. Nice and low. And you got to listen carefully when we do this. Watch your rotor RPM. And just be ready to catch it as soon as it settles. There it is. Now, one of the things you probably noticed during a little quick stop there is that RPM came down, but our rotor RPM shot up quite drastically. And again, the reason it does that is all that extra air moving through it, kind of gyrocopter style, so it gives you an opportunity. This helicopter is more than powerful enough, even with a passenger here on my left and more or less 3/4 of a tank, to be able to hold a hover at this altitude. And I always like practicing hovers at altitude because it makes it a little bit easier, especially when you face the wind. All right, let's get moving again. Keep in mind, you need that translational lift. Watch your power when you do that. Delightful. There's about 40, 50 knots. There's a translational lift. It'll make it much, much, much easier to coordinate the helicopter. Delightful. And you can see we basically gained and lost 0 altitude there, which is a nice, smooth transition. All right, next what we'll do is we'll go ahead and swing back around and we'll land at a given point. Again, these are great maneuvers to do when you're first learning, and we're a little low to be flying this close. Of course, in the real world, we have things called birds. Birds are very, very unfriendly to any aircraft. Kind of one of those things you got to always be mindful of. All right, we'll go swing here. Go say hello to the road. Everybody looking up at you right now. Kind of keep that in mind. And again, all you need to do is just gently apply all your controls here. Nothing crazy. This helicopter gets very squirrely when it gets slow. Flying this thing without hydraulics makes it extra squirrely, but we'll take what we can, kind of a thing. Especially if you're coming from the, like I said, the H-125. We have no stabilization of this helicopter. It just kind of does its thing. There we go. Go rip. See, is the restaurant open today? Probably not. I'm not going to worry about it too much. There we go. Let's go ahead and execute our next one, and we'll go ahead and pick a point. As you're turning, keep in mind you will bleed speed very rapidly. Reduce your bank angle if you're worried about your speed. I actually want to bleed a little bit of speed in this turn here. You can see we're down to 65 before I finish the turn. There's the blade slap again, reminding us we're being naughty. And let's transition. One of the things you want to do when you're landing on this one is it's much easier to control a helicopter when the helicopter is moving. As we start to get slow, it gets progressively more challenging in order to maintain a certain altitude or a certain attitude. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pick a spot on the ground there. Oh, that looks good. There's a kind of yellow spot right there. We're going to use that as my reference point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my collective to control my up and down while using my cyclic, which is your stick, to basically control my speed. If I see I get slow, I push the nose forward. If I see I start sinking too fast, like I am right now, I simply apply a little bit of collective. What we're trying to do is kind of keep our target at a fixed position and at a fixed angle as we approach the ground. Sort of like we're almost doing a landing approach on an airplane. Now I see I'm getting a little slow, so I'm just going to push the nose forward, pick up a little bit of speed. And we're in great shape. Okay, so now we're going to transition into landing. You'll notice that I'm waiting to stop until I get a lot closer to the ground. It makes it much, much easier and much, much safer for that transition. There we go. You can see we're getting a little low. That's okay. Oh, don't you dare cut me off, van. Man, that guy just did a massive spin out there. Nice. You guys got some... Whoa, don't you dare come near me. Hey, stay away. All right, let's go ahead and transition here. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to keep the helicopter moving into the last possible moment. Again, you're going to need a lot of left foot. In the real world, yeah, you can see I'm kicking things up as I'm doing this. That's very realistic. You need a laser-guided joystick here in order to be able to do this smoothly. As we enter into ground effect, you're going to get this weird little kind of cushioning effect. And there we are on the ground. Use a little bit of cyclic, and there we are. Perfect. As you can see, awesome helicopter. Absolutely awesome. Very controllable, and actually almost like it over the H-125. Shutting this thing down is very easy. Normally there'd be a whole cool down procedure, but for us, we're going to keep it nice and simple. Make sure this is not enabled. And what's going to happen is the thing's going to slowly spool back down. Again, that rotor's got a lot of drag, so it's going to come down. An awful person, of course, would do one of those with the collective. You don't want to do that. That's kind of naughty. You're going to get some little warning lights appear up on the cockpit. And now once we get a low enough RPM, you can just reach over your head and pull the rotor brake and just kind of hang on to it, just like it would be on an R22. Once our rotor does slow down sufficiently, which is going to take us a minute, the thing's got a lot of speed, all you have to do is come down here, shut off the master battery and my lights, and enjoy.